Section 4.7, we're going to take a look at circle equations. Circles are actually not functions because if you use the vertical line test, you're going to see that in some spots there's going to be more than one answer for every x value. But they fit in because we're looking at shifts of equations. So we will look at circles and the shift. Okay, so let's do a brief overview of circles first. All right, let's see. Here we go. Okay, this is what I want. All right, so we're going to start with something called a unit circle. It's called the unit circle, and I'm just telling you how they come up with the equation for a circle. It's called a unit circle because we're going to say that the radius is 1 unit. So if I draw my circle here. Alright, so we have a circle, the radius is 1 unit. If I draw on a right triangle here, this is my x value, this is my y value, and this point right here is, well, it's 1 unit for the radius, we'll say. So the unit circle has a radius of 1. It has a center at 0, 0. Okay, so to come up with the equation of the circle, I should put my radius as 1. We're going to use Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem we can use for a right triangle. And we have a right triangle here. The two legs of the triangle are x and y. So we have x squared plus y squared, and that equals the radius, 1 squared. So this is where the equation of a circle comes from Pythagorean theorem. It's a right triangle, and we know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So therefore you have x squared plus y squared equals 1 squared. Now if you wanted to graph this in your graphing calculator, what letter do you need by itself? And the answer is you need y by itself. So to graph, let's solve for y. Okay, so first thing I would subtract x squared from each side. You get y squared equals 1 squared, which is 1, minus x squared. Take the square root. Remember, when you take the square root, there's 2 answers, the positive and the negative. So y equals plus or minus, which means the positive and the negative answer of 1 minus x squared. Alright, so in your graphing calculator, in your y1, you could type in the positive, so square root of 1 minus x squared. And for y2, you could type in the negative 1. And then you would get the full circle. Now remember what this negative does, it reflects it across the x-axis. So you can graph those and you'll get your circle. Okay, so there's where the equation comes from. This is what we're going to be looking at today, equation of a circle. Again, it's not a function, but it is an equation. Same shifts apply though. So here it is, the unit circle. How do you think this equation would be shifted from the original? Think about what we did previously in the unit when you have the minus 1 in parentheses with the x. What did that do? So we know if it's in the parentheses with the x, it shifted it left and right. And if it was negative, it shifted right 1 unit. How do you think this equation would be altered from the original? Well, look, here the radius is 1. Here we have a 9 right here. Remember, this was our radius squared. X squared plus y squared equals our radius squared. So here, the radius squared equals 9. So let's see what happens. What does this mean? Okay, graph all 3 equations from the previous line on the same set of axes. Okay. So to do that, remember we have y equals plus or minus the square root of 1 minus x squared. And let's try it with a 9. Okay, so the original one will look something like this. We graph it on the graphing calculator. And then the graphing calculator one will look like this. Alright, so what's the radius of this new circle? And if you count, it is 1, 2, 3 units. So this means we have a radius of 3. Okay, so basically, this is r squared, and we knew r squared equals 9. So when we solved, the new radius is actually 3. So this number over here by itself doesn't give you the radius. If you take the square root of it, it will give you the radius. And it should be plus or minus 3. Okay, so let's take a look at types of problems you'll see. So in general, the equation of the circle, and notice, here y is on the same side as x. So what that means, usually whatever we added, the k value was either up or down, and we kept it the same. If it was plus, it was up. If it was minus, it was down. But now since it's on the same side as x, we're going to do that opposite thing, just like it was opposite left and right. So now we have hk as the center, and we should put where minus means the opposite. So minus equals the opposite. Okay, so what does this look like with numbers? Graph this circle. So the center of the circle is the opposite of 2 and the opposite of negative 3. So again, since y is on the same side, we're going to do the opposite of it now, which is different than the rule we've looked at before where it was just up or down. So here's the center, negative 2, 3, and the radius, if you notice, 9 equals r squared. So we have to take the square root, and here we say the radius is 3. Okay, so then to graph it, you have to know where to find the center, negative 2, 3. And the radius is 3, just means go up 3, over 3, down 3, and over 3. Whoops. And then you can draw your circle from those points, which hopefully looks better than my circle. Okay, so let's just practice this. Write the equation of each circle. Let's do A first. So first we need the center. So A. The center is at negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, 1, 2, 1, 2, negative 6, 2. And the radius is 1. So let's plug that in. So we're going to do x and do the opposite of negative 6, so plus 6 squared. And then remember, y is on the same side as x, so we do the opposite of 2 squared equals 1 squared, which is just 1. Let's go B. The center is 0, 0. The radius is 3. So we're just going to have x squared plus y squared equals 9, because 3 squared is 9. Okay, let's do another one. Write the equation of a circle that is a translation of the unit circle, 4 units to the left and 2 units down, and let's give this a radius. So let's say radius equals 5, we'll say. Okay. So 4 units to the left, we're going to have x plus 4 squared. 2 units down, y, and remember now it's the opposite of down from 2, so we're going to do y plus 2. And then if the radius is 5, we're going to square it, we get 25. Okay, let's try another one. What is the vertex and radius? Okay, so the vertex is the opposite of what's in the parentheses. So if there's nothing in the parentheses, it's 0. So 0, 4. The radius is the square root of this, which is 5. Okay, so for your assignment, you just have a worksheet where we're practicing this. So it looks something like this. Go back. Oops. See if I have a copy of the worksheet that you'll be doing. Oh, here it is. And you're just practicing either writing the equation of a circle or interpreting that equation and finding the center and the radius. So I'll let it load so you can see what it looks like. It should be in your packet though. And just finish that worksheet for tomorrow. Alright, so here's the assignment. Load that. Okay, so here, write the equation for each circle. I'll give you the center and the radius, so practice using that. And then on the bottom, I give you some graphs to fill out. So can you take the graph, find the center and the radius? And then there is also an assignment in your book. Let me just double check it. 226. See if you'll be able to do it. 226. A through I, yep. Looks good. 3, 5. Okay, yeah, you should be able to do the assignment on your calendar as well. So I'll put that up. So worksheet, and then here's the assignment. Oh, I guess there was some review that we should go over as well. Okay, so let's do the review. Okay, so review equation solving, get x by itself. What would you do in the first equation? So here, first step is you could either distribute and solve that way, or you could just get rid of the -2 first by dividing by -2. You have x plus 4 equals -10. Subtract 4. So x equals -14. And then you can plug in and check. But what happens if you have a square root sign? How do you get rid of that? Well, the opposite of the square root sign is squaring it. So you'll get 1 minus x plus 4 squared equals 400. You would get negative x plus squared equals negative 399. I'm going to make this thicker. All right, divide each side by a -1. You would get x plus 4. And here, actually, this one right here we wouldn't be able to solve. Okay, this is really messy, I apologize. We have x plus 4 squared equals a negative number, -399. To get rid of the squared, you would have to take the square root. And can we square root a negative number? No, we can't, so here we'd have to stop. Okay, let's look at the other two examples. Absolute value, this is review, so remember, this question is asking you what two numbers are 8 away from 0, so you're going to split it up. You'd have x minus 6 equals 8, and solve that for x. You'd have x minus 6 equals -8, and you'd solve for that. Okay, this one right here, get rid of the 3 and the 2 first before you split it up. So for this one, subtract 3 from each side first. So you'd have 2 times the absolute value of x minus 6 equals 22. Then divide by 2. Then you would split it up, so you'd have the absolute value of x minus 6 equals 11. Now split it up. So you'd have x minus 6 equals 11, and solve that. And you'd have x minus 6 equals -11, and then you'll get your two answers. So basically with the absolute value, get the absolute value by itself, then split it up into the positive and negative. And I think that's it. Yep. All right, so do the worksheet, and I think that there's a book assignment as well.